Hi, everybody. It's me. It's time for another story. This one comes to us from Dating Hell, but the title caught my attention, so let's just go with this. Don't go out with a nice guy. Not even once. You can see why this one caught my attention, can't you? So this is about 4 or 5 years ago when I was in grad school. I've always had a lot of difficulty navigating the dating world, and at least I finally know why. See, I found out I'm on the autism spectrum, so I have a lot of difficulty with eye contact, interpreting body language / facial expressions, and reading people's intentions. However, at the time, I didn't know I was on the spectrum, so I was super self-conscious about my lack of dating experience, and was constantly questioning myself, and felt stupid and believed that anything that went wrong was my fault. After some encouragement from friends, I signed up for OkCupid and decided, I'll give it a try. I received lots of requests for hookups, which I ignored because that's not what I was looking for. I had some conversations with a few guys, but they were short-lived. Finally, this guy, let's call him R, messages me, and he seemed super interesting and charming. His messages were littered with compliments that were really nice to hear, seeing that I had really low self-esteem. He also worked as a musician. I was going to school for music, so it was nice to have that in common. I decided to give it a whirl, and we met up for coffee. We get to the coffee shop, and he is waiting with a huge bouquet of roses. The spectacle usually makes me very uncomfortable, but I thought the gesture was nice anyway. He pulls out the chair, gesturing for me to have a seat, and we begin our date. After a series of compliments, he begins to list all of the things which he absolutely would not tolerate in a relationship because he is worth far more than that. I kind of figured, whoa, dude, slow down. This is date one. But I also figured it seemed perfectly reasonable to state what you're looking for and not looking for. Anyway, date ends. He pays for the coffee. I thanked him, agreed to a second date. Coffee date had to be very brief because we had a limited time to meet that day, and I didn't feel like I could get a good solid yes or no yet, you know? Once I get home, R sends me a text saying that he had a great time and that he looks forward to our next date. I say thank you, and I look forward to it too, and I went to bed. The next day, class as usual, put my phone on silent or turn it off while I'm in class because, well, I'm in class. Once I have my first break, I look at my phone and see dozens of texts from R. They started out with "good morning" and more compliments, but as they progressed, they sounded very angry that I was not responding. I texted him back, apologizing, saying that I wasn't ignoring him, that I simply could not text while I was in class. He calls BS on that, saying, "It's not that hard to send a text," and essentially said something along the lines of, "I really should bail on you for being so rude and inconsiderate, but I'll give it another chance since you're so pretty and seem apologetic." What a classy guy. He also went on about how he was such a nice guy, and all he wants is to have his kindness and effort be appreciated. Since I assume everything is always my fault, I apologized. Our second date comes. We agreed to do something outdoors since I was dog sitting. He said he likes dogs and he didn't mind, so we went to an outlet mall where they had plenty of places to sit outside. The whole time we're walking, I noticed that he refused to walk next to me and mostly stood very close behind me. He kept shifting around, and I noticed he moved himself to essentially act as a shield anytime another guy was anywhere near me. I asked him about it, and he responded by saying he's old school and was simply interested in looking after my safety. Uh-huh. Seemed odd since I'm literally walking a large dog in a public place and in broad daylight. I felt like I was made out of glass the entire time. Once we get to where we're eating and sit down, R opens with a barrage of concerns he has about me. He starts by saying that I've insulted him by accepting all of his compliments without returning the favor. Without compliments of my own, I assume. He didn't feel that he deserved this because of how nice he has been to me. Being the naive idiot I was, I thought that it somehow made sense. I internally screamed at myself for being rude, since R is not the first person to accuse me of being rude for something I didn't even realize I was doing. He's also said that since this was date number 2, he was making an investment. Yes, he actually said that. Real fucking classy, dude. And that I needed to do the same. He told me that even though we weren't official, that he expected any woman he went on more than one date with to be exclusively seeing him and no one else. He didn't want to put in the money and effort if it meant she'd only pick someone else. I was literally being talked to like I was a child. I didn't say anything at the time because I actually felt like I was in the wrong and kind of completely froze up. Once we finished eating, I offered to split the bill with him since I didn't want him to feel he needed to pay for everything. I told him it would make me feel better knowing that I contributed. R responded by saying no, and that I could contribute by showing him the appreciation he deserved. After the date ended, I felt completely burned out and exhausted. A few days later, I went to lunch with some of my guy friends who had lots of questions about my date. I didn't really want to talk about it since I was embarrassed and confused, but I agreed because they all seemed really excited. I asked for as much dating advice as I could, since I felt like I had no idea what I was doing, and I felt like I was disappointing R. When they asked me to elaborate, I explained what happened, and they seemed shocked and really mad. Again, I thought it was me, but to my surprise, they were all pissed at him, and explained this was a super predatory behavior. They explained to me what a nice guy was, and that R was trying to weaponize my misplaced guilt and issues with low self-esteem to paint himself as this amazing man that's being victimized and taken for a ride. Needless to say, I told R that I didn't think it was going to work out and no longer wanted to see him. Of course, he complained that nice guys finish last, and that I wasted his time and money by leading him on. I'm much more verbal now with friends if something doesn't feel right, and aware that if you have to constantly talk about how nice you are, you're probably putting up a front. So, yeah, nice guys, never again. What your friend said was 100% correct. This dude is super predatory, and I'm sure he does that kind of shit all the time. That's a very common, what's the word I'm looking for? The kind of pickup artist trope. There's a lot of those guys who try to push that kind of mentality where you essentially tell someone, how nice and how wonderful you think they are, and then start slightly picking little things. And just, pushing those little things so they become heavily dependent upon, your opinion instead of their own opinion. This is called negging, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely horrible. It is a psychological manipulation tactic, and a lot of these pickup artist guys do that kind of shit all the time. And a lot of nice guys / neckbeard guys tend to listen to those pickup artist types. They tend to take their advice and listen to what they're talking about as if these guys are some kind of, authority. They're not. They're really not. A lot of these pickup artist dudes literally only exist because guys like these neckbeards and nice guys exist. They are essentially fleecing that whole community and taking whatever money they can. The reason why, and I doubt any, nice guy neckbeard types actually watch this, but the reason why those guys in their videos and in their stuff are always surrounded by beautiful women or whatever is because those beautiful women are models. As in, they're paid to be there. They're paid actresses. They're not there because this guy is just so charming and so amazing. They're not. He's just not. Richard LaRuina, for example, who I've read most of his book, and I've seen his videos and things like that. He's not that charming of a dude. He's just kind of sleazy and tries to give off the impression of being like this kind of shy boy who doesn't totally understand and really just wants you to like him. But the fact that he literally wrote all these guides about like how to just straight up get women into bed immediately, that's not something an actual nice person does. That's someone who is interested in one specific thing. Now, the big question when it comes to that is, do these guys actually think their methods work? Some of them do. Some of them fall into that kind of mentality where they believe that the magic act they're putting on is actual magic. They fool themselves. But a lot of them don't. They'll never really openly admit that, but a lot of them do not. And they know that some of the things they're describing probably won't work. But the secret there is you write this guide about how to get the ultimate chicks or whatever, and then when that doesn't work, it's like, oh, well, see, I've revised that guide, and now you have to buy this guide. Oh, but see, that one didn't work, but that's fine, because I wrote a new book. And you see where this is going, don't you? It's like an MLM, isn't it? There is no end to it. And that's how these guys operate. And a lot of these nice guys, much like the person R from this story, operate like that because they think that's how, these guys who have relationships, they think that that's how they act. That's not how that works. So, this is not just me, talking about how bad these guys can be. I mean, we've talked multiple times about how bad neckbeards and nice guys and all that shit can be. This is also addressing a root cause of what they do, of where some of this comes from. Not all of it, mind you. There are other sources. But there are several places other than those internet sources, specifically these kinds of guides and self-help books, and I say that with the biggest fucking air quotes you can find, that kind of talk like this, that make them think that this is acceptable behavior. Now, do I think R is one of those guys who reads those books, or, in LaRuinous case, actually plays the game? Yes, he has a game, I'm serious. I don't know, but he definitely talks like someone who does. He definitely has the thought patterns of someone who would. Because a lot of these guides really push the idea of negging. And negging is really disgusting. It's so bad that I hate saying the word. But it is that kind of mentality that they push. That kind of thing where you just like, oh, I think this person's amazing. And then you just start nitpicking at little tiny details to make them really insecure. And again, that is a mental manipulation tactic. That is a really horrible thing to do. It's gaslighting in a bunch of different ways. It's really, really bad. And that's why, once he figured out that our OP was this insecure and dealing with these issues at the time, thankfully not anymore, but was dealing with these issues at the time, he tried to exploit that. And thankfully her friends knew about this and immediately pointed that out so that she didn't get stuck with someone like this. But yeah, that is a thing. It's pretty evil. It's pretty fucking evil. I went on for this for a little bit longer than I thought I would, but I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. And if you'd like to send me a story that you wrote, or just a story you think I'd be interested in, send it to my subreddit at r/Moonhorse Stories, and I'll definitely check it out. And if you'd like to support this channel, check down in the description box below. I have a merch shop, and I have a Ko-Fi account. All of these things help keep the lights on around here so I can keep doing whatever the hell it is I'm doing here. I love you all so very, very much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye, everybody.